off. So what I thought we'd do is it's only right that we do review Carl Frampton, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
What I'll do, I'll give you my thoughts. My thoughts are that he's been on the slide since 2016. If I'm being brutally honest with you, I think obviously he had a few fights in 2016, like the Quig, Santa Cruz, and I think he's been sliding since then. I think Warrington showed that up a lot in that fight because a prime Frampton beats Warrington for me. So, although I went for Frampton, I've got to be honest, I wasn't that much surprised, and he couldn't get past that long lever, could he?
He couldn't. I mean, I thought Frampton would still have enough left. You know, I think in terms of the Warrington fight, Warrington had the bit between his teeth. Warrington was a busier fighter, and I think Warrington surprised Frampton. He hit him a lot harder than what people were giving credit for. Yeah. If you ask Frampton now,
he's came out and said that, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's come out and said that. But going back to the fight with Herring, I thought you would have enough about him to negate that jab. I thought he would utilise his feet a bit more. I was surprised, really, as an orthodox fighter, he didn't really establish his left lead foot on the outside of Herring's, which I thought would have been absolutely key to then letting his right hand go to then beat the southpaw, because that's a punch to do it. But you're right, he was lethargic, and I didn't even score him around. If I'm going to be frank with you,
I think it's definitely a case of father time catching up with Frampton, wasn't it? I did say on the show, if you remember, me and Dave both made the point that was concerned that father time had caught up with him.
Yeah. I know you had said it to me privately as well on Facebook that you just thought perhaps he'd seen better days. But I think for me, the one punch that you see before he had that before the first knockdown, Frampton had a little bit of success.
Yep.
He was getting him inside. He was cutting off his angles, and he was letting his right hand go.
But Erin never looked troubled, did he, Ray?
He looked uncomfortable. I wouldn't say trouble, but he did look uncomfortable. And if you remember, that's what I was saying that Lamont Roach was doing.
Yeah.
And that's why that fight was so tight. And he ended up wobbling Herring in the 11th round. So I thought it was within Frampton's capabilities, and I thought maybe Frampton was waking up. But then 10 seconds later, I was wrong. He got the knockdown. And let's be honest, you could see the left uppercut coming from the second or third round.
He
knew that was going to be a punch to finish.
He was measuring it up, wasn't he? Measuring it up.
He was.
I thought Travis and Moore did a great job in the corner, though.
Yeah.
In terms of the stoppage, I thought they timed that about right. Because there's potential for him to get hurt, wasn't there?
Yeah. I thought the first knockdown was a heavy knockdown, and he was taking unnecessary shots. It reminded me a bit like in the Warrington fight where he was getting buzzed. His legs were just stiffening, and then he was just taking unanswered shots. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not as if Jamel Herring's a big puncher or a banger or a dangerous puncher.
No.
I just think it was just it's the accumulation of punches that will do the damage, and he couldn't see any of them coming. He definitely couldn't do anything about the jab.
No. I mean, what do you make of Mr. Herring? Was it a case that he was good, or was it a case that Frampton it was just spent? Bit of both.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know me. I hate sitting on the fence. I mean, I'll be honest. I would say Jamel Herring was good. He was better than what I thought he was.
Yeah.
I loved the way every time he threw a combination, he took that little step back. So he kept increasing the distance, so Frampton couldn't get close. No. Little things like that were class. He varied his shots. He would throw that right hand jab to the head, right hand jab to the body. And then he would throw like either a left uppercut or a left hook. Frampton just couldn't read them. He's basic enough. He'll do the basics well. There was nothing there that was spectacular.
No.
And if I'm going to give you my opinion, I still don't think he beats the other champions at 130.
I think you think he might well retire, don't you?
I think you'll be pleased with that performance. And I think you'll. I said at the start, I think, well, you know, because he's not going to beat any of the other champions at 130. I think seeing it now, he might be brave and call one of them out.
Payday.
But I just don't see him, because he can't beat Shakur Stevenson. I don't even see him beating Jojo Diaz. He definitely doesn't beat Valdez.
No.
And I think Burchelt gives him problems as well.
Yeah. It'll be very difficult to matchmake him next fight.
Yeah.
In my view. I'm not sure where he goes. Whereas Frampton would have jumped in with them guys, wouldn't he?
Frampton would have done. Frampton's got the heart. Plus, I think what we're forgetting about Frampton is Frampton is more marketable than Jamal Herring. So suppose Frampton won, he could have said, well, okay, I would fight any one of those champions, have it over at Belfast when the fans are back in the arenas. Could have got minimum of 30,000 there. Jamal Herring isn't as marketable as that.
No.
And he's getting on as well, Carl. I mean, he's 35, so he ain't got many fights left if he chooses to continue anyway.
And that's why I think he might jump in with the big boys for a couple of paydays.
Just to get the money in.
World champion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is as well is Jamal Herring. He looked so calm, so composed, so relaxed. He never looked. There was never any sign of panic in there.
No.
Just like you're saying, that moment of success Frampton had before you knocked Frampton down, he looked as though he was in complete control. Even though I started to see that as some success for Frampton, he looked in complete control. He's definitely a deceiving boxer, Carl.
Yeah, I just thought Frampton ran out of ideas towards the end and fell on his shield a little bit. He wanted to go out on his shield, didn't he? You can see he was a little bit frustrated when that towel come in.
Yeah.
But then he realised it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and he's not daft, Carl Frampton.
No.
You see him when he does his punditry.
Jimmy Ward's come out and says he was worried about him getting really hurt. Yeah. That's why the towel will come in, which is a sign of a good trainer, isn't it?
Yeah. And I rate Jamie Moore. I think he's got a lot of potential. And most importantly, I think he looks after the welfare of his boxers. He really cares.
Yeah. So Frampton's come out and announced his retirement. So stellar career, good career.
Yeah, I think if he had said to at the start of his career to achieve what he has done, I think he would have snapped both your hands off for it.
Never ducked nobody. That's what I like.
Sorry?
He never ducked nobody, Frampton. That's what I like about him.
He never. He gave his all in all his fights, and he had his big fights. He had his big domestic fights in the UK. Don't forget his double fights with Leo Santa Cruz, which really should have been a trilogy.
Yeah, Santa Cruz didn't want it, did they? Let's be honest.
I was just about to say, Carl. I was just going to say Leo Santa Cruz. It was him that didn't want the third fight. I think Frampton. Don't get me wrong, Leo Santa Cruz
great
outboxed him in the second fight, but I think Frampton would have worked it out. And it's interesting because for me, I saw shades of the second Leo Santa Cruz fight in that Herring fight where Frampton just couldn't get past the jab. And I don't know whether that's just because of the physical being. I mean, he's only 5'5", Carl Frampton.
Yeah. Talking about someone who beat Frampton, where's Warrington go next?
Very good question. I think it's the rematch with Lara. Because
risky one though, because if he gets beat again,
it is.
Where does that leave him?
It is, but part of me thinks there were so many different reasons he vacated his belt. I don't think. I wonder how much that took out of him psychologically, and I also think. I know I hate fighters saying it, but I definitely do think he underestimated Lara. I just basically thought he must have
He had
thought he
one
could.
eye. He had one eye, didn't he, Ray, on the future fights?
Yeah,
This is
I
just
would.
this is a stepping stone, a tick over, if you will.
Yeah, I would have said he would have both eyes.
He had his head filled full of big names by Eddie Hearn. Get rid of the belt, get rid of the belt, Josh, and we'll move on to bigger fights. And maybe he took his half the ball.
Definitely, I agree. I think he was. If you ask me, Warrington was just completely focused on other things, other fights, and he's probably starting to believe his own hype. And because I didn't think he was. Well, he fought himself, and he was ranked as the number 1 featherweight. So he was calling out everybody else, and he just didn't pay attention to what was in front of him. You can't afford to do that at this level.
I want to like Warrington, but it's not the easiest to like. I admire him as a boxer, but I don't like the old Leeds thing he's got going. I don't really appreciate when the Leeds fans are in press conferences treating it like a football match and not respecting the other opponent like they did Kid Galahad. It was outrageous what they did to Kid Galahad in that press conference.
It was. If you're a promoter, though, that's the dream, because they're the ones that are going to buy your ticket. They don't know the boxing, but they buy the tickets. And from Josh Warrington's point of view, and from Eddie Hearn's point of view, that's all they're bothered about.
Galahad beat him that night, yeah.
I had Warrington. The thing for me with Kid Galahad is he just never seems
he tried to nick the belt,
to do enough.
He tried to nick it, Ray, didn't he? He tried to nick the fight.
That's it, Carl.
Rather than rip the belt away.
Say you need to rip it from the champion.
Yeah.
If Galahad's the champion, fair enough. But when he's not the champion, he needs to be a bit more aggressive than that.
And Warrington ducked Galahad for the rematch.
Yeah, but then again, Carl, it wasn't the greatest of fights, was it?
No.
So he's probably looking at that.
It was a picking fight, wasn't it, Ray? What you like? That's what it was.
Yeah. And he's probably looking at that and thinking, well, why do I want to go through that again? It's high risk, low reward. What do I want to bother with that again? And that's why he didn't want that fight.
Puts bums on seats, that fight does, though, when the stadium's open up again.
I mean, do you think Warrington can go back and win a world title again?
Yes. I don't like the circus around him, but I actually quite rate him as a boxer. I think he's got good power, as Frampton says. And the engine on him's remarkable, but something wasn't right in that last fight, like you said. He was gassing, wasn't he? I've never seen him gas.
Yeah, that's why, because you just said it there. His engine always is superb. He does remind me a little bit, and I've said it before to Dave. He's a bit like an English Neil Santa Cruz. He throws a lot of punches, and I do think now he's settling down and becoming physically stronger at featherweight. Yeah. He hits harder than his record suggests. So I do see him doing a number on Laura, and then
I like that Laura though. I like him.
Well, I'll be honest, Carl. I do like a lot of these Mexicans that are coming over.
You don't know what you're getting, do you, Ray? There's normally very limited footage on them. You know, it must be a nightmare to research them and find out what they look like.
Yeah,
they're very well kept secrets, aren't they?
It is, but a lot of these South American boxers. I mean, I've said it since we Ishmael Salas brought over Prescott, for Amir Khan, but a lot of them can punch. They don't have the best footwork in the world. They're not the most technical, but boy, can they fight.
And they love a war, don't they?
They do. If anything, they love a scrap and they'll leave it all in the ring. But I think 100% physically fit and psychologically fit, Josh Warrington would be too much for Lara.
It'll be very interesting. Let's see what route he takes. I think if I was promoting Warrington, I would give him a tick over fight just to get that out. It's just there might be a bit of ring rust there at the minute.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
I think from looking at,
and did he come away from his dad as trainer as well?
The thing is, sometimes with the way it works in camps, it's whatever works. I mean, if his dad can motivate him and get him up for fights, then why change it? I think for me is he if there is a problem getting them motivated and keeping them focused on fights, then by all means. But you've got to remember with Josh Warrington, okay, well, where can he go?
Yeah, my only the angle I'm coming from, right, is the big fights that Warrington won, he just bit down on his gum shield and out battled the other boxer, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah.
Whereas I wonder about the tactical nous of his corner. So where a Mexican comes over and Warrington clearly couldn't outfight him in that fight for one reason or another, which we don't know. So if you've got a Jamie Moore in the corner or someone, I just don't think he's got a plan B. You tell me when Warrington's used the plan B.
Well, he hasn't really, and like you're saying, he's never had to.
But he did that night. He needed it that night, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but he probably didn't have it in him.
No.
He probably didn't have it in him. I mean, you could tell by the first round, that wasn't typical of Josh Warrington. You know, he ran towards him. He let from the shots. He got separated from the referee, and then he just looked as though he was going backwards ever since. It's funny enough because he tried to box him in that first round. Referee, it just went horribly wrong from there.
Kudos, though, Ray. He hasn't come out with a raft of excuses, has he?
No. And he
like me out
his jaw, didn't he? Yeah. He's basically just said, "Look, I
had enough
things
night.
Went wrong, and he wants to put them right. So I would give him the opportunity." And we've got to remember as well, you've had people like Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, who have gone straight back into rematches, who've had similar devastating losses, and it's worked out all right for them.
But again, Ray, my argument there is when they've gone back into camp, they've brought something fresh and new into the camp, be it a new trainer, be it a new defensive trainer, be it an whole new team in terms of in his corner. Whereas Warrington's going to go back to the status quo again.
Yeah, but then it might have been, that might tell me, it might, because I know we're talking about the tactical additions you may need to make, but that also, you see, for me, it was their level of opponents were a lot better than what Lara was. So they probably needed to make those tactical adjustments.
To be fair, though, Ray, to be fair, we don't really know how good Lara is.
Well, we don't. But where I was going with Warrington is, it may have just been psychologically. He may have just overlooked them. And suffered from a long time out from out of the ring. In issues there. With the other fighters, Ruiz and Povetkin, they potentially expose some flaws in those fighters, and they need to make those tactical adjustments and technical.
I do draw some parallels, though, Ray. I do draw some parallels between Washington and Joshua and White.
Yeah,
we're making a lot of assumptions here. But could it be motivation? Could it be tactical awareness? Could it be that he's maybe not listening to his corner as much as he really should be doing? Because he's now world champion. You know, the old saying, it's a lot easier to get up when you're running in nylon than it is when you're in silk.
Yeah. I suppose this is what the rematch will tell us.
It will
tell us exactly what he's made of, you know. And if he goes out and if he beats him, if he boxes him to a T, then we know he can adapt to a different game plan. We know he can listen to a corner. You know, if he reverts back, if he boxes anywhere near he did that night, the same outcome is going to happen. So it's on Josh really. So if he keeps it the same camp, if you like, but he produces a better performance, I think it'll erase some of those doubts.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because obviously Matchroom have hung their hat on Mr. Warrington, haven't they? You know,
yeah, because he's a big because he's a massive ticket seller card for the reasons that we were seeing before. And you see Matchroom doing that with a lot of their fighters. You know, Cheeseman's another one that they're kind of putting they're looking in a way that they've got other options in his Cheeseman's division, but you've kind of seen it with their prospects, if you like, and their champions, where they've put a bit too many eggs in that particular basket.
Yeah,
and it's come unstuck for them.
Yeah. So if Warrington loses against Lara next time out, that's some fall from grace, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
There's a massive rebuilding
yeah.
job then.
Yeah, and I would feel sorry for him in the sense that he's not lost that title in the ring, but if he was to lose a second time out, in a similar fashion or on a wide decision on points or what have you, you would know really it would be very difficult for him to come back because he would be in that who needs him club, and no one
And
wants to
also,
be there because he was going to give him a chance.
yeah, and what's in the back of my head, Ray, is sometimes some boxers have just got your number.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So if he does jump straight back, he's not been announced yet, as far as I'm concerned. Warrington, I've not seen it announced with Law, has it?
No, I've not come across it. I still think he needs to take. You know, from what I heard, Eddie Hearn was saying he needs a long break. So I don't expect to see it for another couple of months yet. The announcement.
Yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see what path he takes, Warrington.
Yeah.
I'd be advising him to take a takeover fight, personally, to get the cobwebs out and then jump in.
And then go
big fight
with Laura. Yeah.
It's a big fight, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to cover, Ray, before we bring this to an end?
I was just going to say as well. I mean, I know we've got a big night for Conor Benn next Saturday, and just one about the eggs in the basket and potential banana skins. I think that one's going to be an interesting fight to look forward to, which I know we're going to be previewing in the future. But I think that one's going to be,
I like Conor Benn. He's got a lot of potential, hasn't he?
I think he's worked. He really has improved. He's one of the very few boxers. If I was going to give an award out for the most improved boxer, it'll definitely be Conor Benn. He would definitely be up there. I personally think he's getting Vargas at the right time. But the difference with where Conor Benn is, if he was to lose this fight, it wouldn't be the end of the world for him. It'd be another learned experience.
You can only have so many of them, though, Ray. You can't keep, I don't think you can go to the well too many times at such an early stage of his career. That would be my only concern.
You can't, but then Ricky Burns won a world title after 2 or 3 defeats, one of them being Carl Johansson. I think with sometimes when you've got someone who hasn't had the amateur experience, you're probably going to have to accept that they're going to get more defeats along the way. Whereas somebody who's had a bit more of a polished amateur background, who's a bit more of a polished boxer with their skills, you expect a bit more. So
Conor Benn likes to tear up, don't he?
He does.
That red mist comes down with Conor, don't it?
Yeah, when he gets tagged, he reminds me so much of his old man. So that one's particularly going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that one.
I think he'll be a war.
Yeah, because I think Vargas is with his style of fighting. And I think even though they're getting him at the right time, but his barrel all means finished. I still think he's got something left. He's been in with some big names, Errol Spence, Amir Khan, the likes. So I think he's going to take Conor Benn to some interesting places. He's definitely a step up for Conor Benn compared to his last opponent. So he's going to ask Conor Benn some interesting questions in the ring.
Yeah, but Conor wants to start moving through the boxes now. He wants to start moving through the levels, doesn't he? He's openly said that.
Well, I'll tell you what. An interesting observer this fight is going to be Carl Greaves and David Avanesian, because if they're wanting to Conor Benn to avoid, I think they are avoiding the British level. After this fight, if he does well, they're probably going to get him a fringe world ranked opponent or one just underneath. I wouldn't do that, but I can see Eddie Hearn doing that. I think somebody like David Avanesian's above Conor Benn, but I can see Conor Benn wanting to call him out.
And Carl Greaves always says the same, that David would jump in with anybody.
And
it'll raise his profile, won't it, in the UK? If he jumps,
it would. I mean,
you put the name next to Benn, and it's a big fight, isn't it?
Yeah. He's had you see, that's the thing. You've got people like Florian Marku who are really big ticket sellers. They've got a bit of a profile, and then you've got David Avanesian.
I'm not a fan of Marku. I've watched him a couple of times. Not a fan.
I'm not. I think he this is the thing. He did really well against Ryan Charlton, he was a light welterweight, and he's like 7-0, 8-0. He boxed really well against him, but I'm not taking that as read that Florian Marco's what Matchroom are making him out to be.
No.
And I think out of that little group, I wouldn't be putting Florian Marco in my top 4. I think those two boys that we saw last week, Congo and Mikkelsen, both beat Marco.
Fight. Yeah.
Both beat Marco. Yeah, and I think Josh Kelly will beat Marco. Not a problem.
You had to get Josh Kelly in, didn't you? Yeah, get it in, Ray.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, he's from Sunderland, mind, but I still like to get him in.
It's in the northeast box, so you'll take it, won't you?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So just touch on last night's show quickly, Ray. What a great show! What a great show last night was.
It was terrific, you know. And take your hat off and pat your back. You know,
what great guests.
Yeah,
you know?
They were great. They were knowledgeable as well. I mean, you had Silvio coming in with his background with Chocolatito, Gene. He coached. Yeah, he had a lot of coaching experience, and then obviously you had Will as well. So yeah, we had some really established guests in there coming in, and it'll be great to have them on again in the future. It was great discussions.
That'll definitely be happening roughly in 3 weeks' time. We're going to do another transatlantic one.
Nice one.
And then obviously we got more. We're not going to say who they are, Ray.
Yeah.
But we got plenty of content coming up over the next week or so. We're further afield than that.
Yeah.
We're going to get some boxers on and some trainers on to give us some Q&As and some insight. So, I mean, the channel's doing really well. You know, David Andy's a big part of it as well. I hope people watching it are enjoying it, because all it is really is boxing fans having a bit of banter, knowledgeable boxing fans, bit of banter and a laugh and a joke. So
yeah, and I think
where else can you go for that?
Flying, Carl. Yeah, I think it's flying. Like you said, we've got some big content planned. People will see that as and when they tune in. But I think as well the Thursday nights are really interesting because we're really current.
We don't always agree, Ray, do we? We don't always agree.
We don't always. Carl, if everybody agreed, it would be boring. It would be pointless.
We do the predictions, don't we? The predictions. Just remind me who's top of that table at the minute.
Oh, I forgot. Might be that Liverpool fan. What's his name again?
But all I'm saying is, what a platform, Ray. You know, we're full of ideas, aren't we? You know, it's very different. We're not a podcast. I know we put these out pre-recorded, but we're not a podcast. We want to keep it live as much as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and we're going to start doing shows after main fights. And really, just jump on board. Anyone can join. You know, we're not precious, are we, Ray?
No. Anyone can come in. Anyone can just jump in on the chat. You know, we wanted this because obviously we'll discuss any questions or any points that people are raising, which we've always done on the show. And then jump on board if people are wanting to. You know, we don't sort of expose anybody. You know, we'll come in and we'll have a laugh. We listen to what people's got to say, and that's why the channel's flying. Yeah, last night was a great example, wasn't it? We've never met Will, we've never met Silvio, we've never met Gene. You know, we're only 4 weeks in as us four doing the show, and you'll see from, I don't know if you watched it back yet, Ray, but there's more laughing on it and enjoyment than anything, wasn't there? Yeah, I've watched it back. And the funny thing is, I've had a couple of people say it looks as though, you know, the six of you have kind of been doing it for some time. Yeah. So that's a big compliment, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it goes down to the four of us as well. So yeah, and I think that's the fact is as well. Well, it mentioned that these three guests want to come back, and they're going to come back. So that just speaks volumes. And they stayed on for 1:20 as well. So you don't stay on for an hour and 20. What we're like when we're talking. I know, but to have them three stay on for 1:20 as well, is a big testament to it all, because you don't sit on a show for 1:20 if you're not enjoying it. Exactly, and then you've got to remember as well, for the time differences, it was bang in the middle of the day for them. Yep. So like I said, if you're watching this on a replay, Thursday nights, 9 p.m. is our normal show. Yeah. But if you want to get involved,
just contact us. We're not hard to get hold of. You know, the channel's on Instagram, it's on YouTube. You can get hold of me and Ray on Facebook.
Yeah.
Just drop a comment in the comments box and we'll come back to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, Ray. It was a quick one tonight, so I'm going to call it to halt there, fella.
All right.
Anyone want to get on the show? Like, comment, subscribe.